All right, let's roll into the podcast. Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Post Credits Podcast. Mr. Matt, welcome to Fright Night.
For real.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that one. We're talking about the remake from 2011 with Colin Farrell, Anton Yelchin.
And don't worry, we did cover Fright Night already, the original. But there's an audio version. You got to go in the Wayback Machine or go to Anchor or Apple or Google.
And or to the links in the description below, and we'll talk about, we'll put that there, and you can check that out. That was a good episode. That was back during our during last year's post-mortem where we covered horror movies for the entire month of October, which we're going to do again because we have to.
Yes, it's coming.
Yeah. We had some really great guests last time, just kind of from all over the spectrum, like college professors, Hollywood people. I mean,
it was it was a good month, man.
Yeah.
We cranked out some good episodes. So now I'm excited for this year's because of video, because of this, So it'll be fun. It'll be fun for sure.
I think it will.
So I like this movie, not to get into details too much yet, but this is, I think, a really good example of like what a remake can be. We always think about remakes, and I'm guilty of this. Whenever it's like Hollywood's remaking a movie, I'm like, oh God, here we go. There's plenty of good examples, and we'll get into some of those as well. Also horrible ones, but I think this one's a good example. I don't see too many complaints other than critics being critics, just kind of taking a dump on things because that's what their profession is, so.
Yeah, I came across some interesting things too. I hadn't actually seen this until this year because...
No kidding.
I was just kind of sleeping on it. I had written Colin Farrell off as an actor because of Daredevil, and I just ignored everything that he did for the longest time. And then my buddy was like, Fright Night remake's pretty good. Yeah, what do you know? And then when I was going through...
You're not going to tell me what I'm going to like.
Trying to find like 3D movies to watch with my new system there. It's like, oh, I never saw that one. Blake says it's pretty good. And it turns out it's actually kind of difficult to find on physical media.
Yeah, it is. I don't think it's released on 4K. Hopefully it might be soon, but it usually is like $20.
Can we put a pin in the 4K thing just to because I guess I'm gonna have two news things. It's not really news, but oh my God, I just want to talk about the 4K situation because this October is, oh, my wallet hurts already. Go ahead, yeah.
Oh, yeah, pre-orders?
It's usually expensive.
I feel your pain. Yeah, well, yeah, it's like for a Blu-ray, it's like I've seen it for like $20 to $30. So it's like one of these times when it gets into the $20 orbit, I'm gonna have to snag it up. It is on Amazon Prime right now, so. And when I say that though, just take that with a grain of salt, because whenever I say that out loud, Amazon's listening.
They're listening, and
they're gonna take it down immediately,
snatch it right off there.
The amount of movies Brian and I have decided, and I'm like, yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. And then when I go to watch it, it's not there anymore, and I have to rent it. It's happened at least a dozen times to me. I am not even joking. So I've spent a lot of money on $3 rentals over the course of this podcast.
Well, it is on Tubi, but
ads.
There's so many things to talk about with this movie.
Yes.
I came across some really cool things. You came across some cool things. I think that's a good place to take a break, and then we're going to talk about some news and then jump right back into it.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Let's let it rip.
Yeah. Well, you first, man.
You always say that, but that's okay.
I'll go first this time. That's fair. I'll go first. My news is just amusing. It's not anything serious, but Leonardo DiCaprio broke up with his girlfriend, Camilla Morrone or Morone. I don't know these celebrities, but he has an age limit, right? Which is 25. Now, there's no hate to any woman that's dated him at all. I don't want this to be like a bashing of women at all. But at some point, they must know. They must know that he has an age limit. And once they get to 25, that's it. Like, she turned 25 in June,
Uh-huh.
not too long ago.
Right.
And she's gone. That's it. No more. So on to the next sub
So
25-year-old.
I mean, is this something that, I mean, obviously that there's a pattern here. I'm not denying that. Is this something
Yeah,
that
it's
he's actually said where he's like, there's
I
an
don't think
expiration date on these relationships where we're donezo when it hits 25?
I don't think there's been any public comment on his dating habits from him personally.
Yeah.
It's just someone, because God bless the internet, has put together a chart of, you know, the age of every woman he's dated,
Hmm.
and the peak on now 4 instances is 25. There's no one he's dated that's older than that.
Wow.
It's
So,
it's funny to me, and it's one of those things that could be kind of gross, like, because he's getting older but he's still dating these, younger women.
hmm.
So at some point there's going to be like a wealth of knowledge and experience that Leonardo DiCaprio has already had, and what would he have in common with a sub 25-year-old, at that point? That's why I think it's kind of funny. Like,
Well,
who
yeah.
am I to say what relationship is fulfilling and not?
Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty
So
big age gap between Callista Flockhart and Harrison Ford
that's
as
true.
well. So it's
That's
like,
really true.
but the fact that there's this like extreme pattern there is kind of like, I like you said, like the woman must go into the relationship kind of, thinking like maybe there's, it'd kind of
Yeah.
be like being a woman in a Quentin Tarantino movie and not realizing that the feet thing's
There's
going to
going to
come
be
up.
feet. Yeah. There's going to be shots of feet. Yeah.
Right,
Your
right.
feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whose feet is the camera gonna? Yours? Yeah, yours. Your feet. You have the best feet of this whole cast.
Well,
I don't know.
It did
It's
seem
just
like a slow
amusing.
news week because I almost didn't have, because I saw that too, and it's like, yeah, I don't know, what do you want to talk about, but
It's just amusing to me, and like everyone knows it, but no one's like, I don't believe anyone's asked him about it in any interview. But it's like public knowledge at this point, and it's like it feels like it's an elephant in the room.
mhm.
At the same time, maybe, I don't know. That's all I got with that. I just think it's funny. So, mark your calendars. If he starts dating a 24-year-old, it could last only 8 months. Who knows?
Oh, well.
No hate. No hate.
Well, I saw that as some people are aware, the character of Winnie the Pooh has entered the public domain, and as a result, there's some people making a Winnie the Pooh horror movie called,
Of course there is,
Blood and Honey. That got a trailer today, and man, does that look bad. It's just, I was not looking forward to this. When I heard that it was a thing that was happening, it was one of those like, must we take the piss out of everything?
Yeah, do we have to do that? Is that something that we needed to have? Like, no.
So not only does the movie look bad because they don't even look like they tried to do like good versions of the characters. It just kind of looks like some dudes remaking You're Next, but they just happen to have like kind of styled masks in the vein of the cartoon.
I know. This trailer rolled across my feed, in multiple feeds on Reddit, on YouTube, everything, and I didn't click play. So I'm guessing you did.
The only reason I did was because I was like, well, I don't know, man. It's a lot of like relationship news this week.
Yeah, it really.
I don't know what the heck. We'll see what this is, but it's not that I want to talk about that movie so much as I just want to make people aware that this is the kind of garbage we have to look forward to when other legacy characters enter the public domain, because 2035 Superman, 2036 Batman, Joker, Catwoman, so,
that's not too far away.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we're lucky,
we'll see some crazy shit in our lifetime. I plan on being around longer than that, but that's not too far away. That really is.
No, it's kind of a stone's throw.
I have a follow-up. So did you watch the whole trailer?
Yeah, so What about it?
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, I'm going to compare trailers you've watched, with that and Monsters, which you didn't get all the way through. So therefore, this new Winnie the Pooh horror movie is more compelling than Rob Zombie's Monsters movie.
Well, I was also
Yeah. Brian likes this movie better than Monsters. You heard it here.
no one's saying that. Don't. If I had the two of them, like like the DVD of both of them in my hand, I think I would watch the Monsters, and that's as well documented as a person that I am who does not like, or I don't enjoy Rob Zombie films. Out of what I've seen, it's just I don't like the style of them. People enjoy them. They just don't seem to want me to like them. Okay, fine. I did watch the first half of it, because it's like 2 minutes long.
Okay.
I watched the first half of it with the sound off. Of
the Winnie the Pooh one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's just like, because I was just like looking at it visually, and it's like, oh, because like they got some stuff with the woods there, and yeah, they did kind of a good, and then it's like they get into like the proper slasher movie part, and it's like, oh god, no, this is terrible.
Yeah. To before we end the segment, it reminded me of that too. I don't even remember the name of it, but there was that like found footage movie that was shot in like Disney World or Disneyland or something, and it was all done with like handheld cameras, like Tomorrowland maybe, or something like that, where it's just like this horror movie set in like a well-beloved family place, right? Where it's just like, why are we even doing this? Why are we here? And I feel like this Winnie the Pooh movie is in that vein,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if you remember that movie.
I remember the name of it. I don't think I ever watched
it was not
never
good.
knew what it was, but
not good.
Well, this isn't going to be good either. And I want to go on the record right now and say I really have no interest in talking about or reviewing this movie when it comes out.
I don't either. You can't force us. You can't force us to do it. I mean, I'm the one that will take one for the team to see if like it's something we could actually talk about. I'll watch it just in case, but I'm not going to be like championing it on social media that this is something that people should see. And it will probably be like one of those things where it's like, we'll have to bleep it out, like in the future, so people don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Let's not. Let's leave this to be. I'm gonna end the segment before you can say it. You're a funny man for creating all that extra work for me.
So in garlic we trust.
You sent me a funny thing about National Garlic Day that apparently we missed an opportunity to talk about a vampire movie.
Yeah. I'm scrolling through Reddit with stuff about Fright Night remake, and someone was ecstatic that they were watching Fright Night remake on National Garlic Day, which is like sometime in April. Mark your calendars, So
yeah. To the Googles, look it up.
Yeah.
So we were saying earlier about like I hadn't seen this until this year. That this was my first time seeing it, and I've watched it. I think this is my second time watching it, maybe the third time watching it this year. So you'd seen this before then?
Yeah, but I was also late to the party. I was not. When it came out, I was like, "Oh, it's a Fright Night remake," but I wasn't interested. I also did not like Colin Farrell, and I was looking back through his movie history, and I was like, why didn't I like Colin Farrell? And it was like, oh, Phone Booth, and then Daredevil, and then SWAT, and then The Recruit, and it's like, oh yeah, it's just a string of really awful movies, and I had written him off. So that was kind of part of the reason where I was like, I don't care, And people kept saying, like, mentioning it, like, oh yeah, it's good, kind of like your experience. So I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I finally sat down and watched it, and I was surprised, to say the least. Remakes are a hard sell, I think, for anybody, even though we do have great examples of remakes. We also have horrible examples of remakes, and then also at the time, vampires
this came out
kind of sucked.
Well, I mean, let's circle back to that, but like at the time, remakes were very much like, we're going to remake anything that has any kind of built-in awareness.
Yeah.
That was strike number one. Is I was so over remakes. I did not care. I didn't want to see it. Oh, and Colin Farrell's involved. I especially don't care.
I just don't care. I cannot be bothered.
I
Yeah.
didn't see Anton Yelchin until Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek came out, I want to say in 2009, the remake of that.
I think so, but I think Terminator Salvation came out before Star Trek.
I think it was the same year.
Oh, okay. Because that's what I remember him from, but maybe it was.
Yeah, that's right, because he did play Kyle Reese in that, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we feel like abusing ourselves, maybe we should do Terminator Salvation at some point. If for no other reason than to reenact the Christian Bale rant. But yeah, he was in that, and then Star Trek came out that year, and God, he was so young.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for his tragic passing, I really feel like he'd be having the career that Tom Holland is enjoying right now.
I agree. I agree too. And it's sad that he passed so soon,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't, there's movies that he's been in that I don't care for, but I'd never think that he's the reason why they're bad. Like he usually is like a good screen presence, at the very least. But yeah, Terminator Salvation is just okay, so it's just mediocre.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah. That's the best way I can put it, because I do like his movies. In Green Room, it's a hard pill to swallow, but
Yeah,
it's
I
still
didn't see
a
that
pretty
one.
good movie.
Maybe I should write that down and check that out.
Oh man, if you're okay
Or
with,
I mean, just look it up or the trailer or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even remember that movie. That's what a blip on the radar that was. But yeah, and then
Yeah.
Colin Farrell, like I say, was another. It's like, nah, I don't like the movies I've seen, so I don't. I didn't see Phone Booth. That was kind of a breakout success for him. SWAT, I didn't care about. It was mostly Daredevil, and it's like, oh, the Daredevil guy. I don't want to see the Daredevil guy in this. It wasn't his fault though, man. Like the more
Daredevil?
time goes by, I'm just like, what a waste of all the talent involved in this. Just across the board.
Yeah. It's pretty wild, like looking back at Daredevil. Well, just the time of superhero movies, because it just seemed like it like all those superhero movies are almost the same thing as like Van Helsing and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, where it's just this like cluster of like 10 years where it's like they had the essence of the great ideas, but then the execution was just so subpar, where now we only can look back at them and saying that they're bad because then it was the best we had, but now we've had at least like 50 movies that are like, this is how you make a really good comic book movie, as other examples, so it's like, okay, yeah, we have proven that the bar is a lot higher, so now we can say, hey, these older movies, they do kind of suck, so
yeah,
they're not good.
They weren't a ton of fun back then either.
No.
I will say that right around the time that I had gotten this, the Batman hadn't come out yet, and knowing that he was going to be the Penguin Colin Farrell was going to be the Penguin in the Batman, I really didn't know what to make of that.
Okay.
And seeing this got me. I mean, like I was pretty excited for that movie, but it had been delayed for so long that I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I'm that excited. Fright Night actually made me kind of second winds excited to see Batman there, because like, you know what, Colin Farrell's a really good actor, and it wasn't.
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
Yeah, but then it's like I watched the Batman there. And it's like, oh, Colin Farrell was in there. Oh my God! Like I didn't. He was unrecognizable under the makeup, and I had watched the trailer a bajillion times, and you just have that great thing where the car is all engulfed in fire. And he's like, "I got you," and I've watched that so many times, and I did not realize until I was watching the movie that was Colin Farrell.
I didn't either. I kept expecting him to show up. I was like, "Isn't Colin Farrell in this movie?" Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he's the fucking Penguin. Yeah, his makeup I saw like it was like a behind the scenes of like what he had to go through. Oh boy, that I would not have the patience to sit still that long. I mean, you can see me bounce around in almost all of these videos because I can't sit still for too
Hmm.
long, And he's like, "Yeah, just put me in this makeup for 4 hours." Like it takes 4 hours or like that long to get all of it on. But it was really interesting what they were doing with because it's standard makeup from the 80s, like foam stuff. It's nothing special, but it's just that it's gotten so refined. They can put so many details into that latex and foam and everything. Um, and it was basically just multi-piece mask going over his face in different thicknesses and a bodysuit.
Hmm.
So, but it was so interesting because even in a behind the scenes camera, the skin still looks real because usually when it's behind the scenes, you're like, oh, you can see all the makeup because of lighting, you know.
Hmm.
But that wasn't the case. They were like in his dressing room and he's just practicing his parts, and you're like, that just looks like a real nasty guy. That doesn't look like Colin Farrell in makeup.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's pretty cool.
hats off.
Yeah,
I owe you an apology, Colin Farrell. We know you
I do
listen to this,
too.
so
Yes. If you ever hear this, we're both saying our apologies because I had written you off, I guess, just for real dumb reasons, And I
yeah.
was like, it's a Colin Farrell movie, and I
Dumb
ain't gonna go
dumb
see that.
reasons.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this is one of the things too where it's like you look back on it and it's like, wow, why didn't this do better?
right,
And it's like, oh,
right,
because people like me were the problem, where because
yeah,
of whatever our
me,
hangups were, we didn't go see it to
right.
support it when it came out. How did this
Uh,
do, by the way? I don't think it was like a
I
bomb or
don't think it was.
anything.
No, it didn't flop, but I don't think it made what the people making it and the studio wanted it to make. But look at the time, man. There were two glaring issues. Vampires were not cool. They weren't vampires anymore. They were things that sparkled, or Mila Jovovich in the future playing a vampire wielding a samurai sword, or Kate Beckinsale
Hold
in
on.
the
Was that
underworld.
Ultraviolet? Is that what
Yeah,
that was?
yeah, she was a
Okay.
vampire. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was dumb. And then mediocre examples of celebrated novels like I Am Legend. There just was not a good. It wasn't a good time. And then also the saturation of remakes, which you touched up on. So it's like
Hmm.
two things going against you. And you're like, hey, now's the perfect time for a Fright Night remake. The dust has not settled on sparkling vampires and memes about Blade being the Daywalker killing all the sparkling vampires. We had not left that orbit yet. So
Vampires are hot. Remakes are hot.
yeah, this is
Green.
surefire win. Yeah, yeah. Certain certain remakes were hot. But then it's like we had The Fog, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Mummy, the Tom Cruise one. Just to be clear, the Tom Cruise one.
Yeah, way later. Yeah.
Yeah,
Was this this wasn't PG-13 though. This didn't fall into that trap, did it?
I don't think so. I think this was R.
It feels like it's R because some of those vampire stakings are pretty gnarly.
Yeah, or Doris or whatever getting brought outside after she gets bit by Jerry, and she just turns to fiery ash as soon as the sunlight hits her.
Yeah.
That was shocking,
I
you
know that
know?
I know they're vampires. You can do practically whatever you want to them, but I feel like there's like axes in the neck and things like that that would have precluded a PG-13 rating
Yeah,
on here.
yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah, there's plenty of stuff. I mean, and plus, like, you know, blood gushing out of necks, that sort of stuff,
Yeah,
just
it
everywhere.
wasn't turning to black and white like in Kill Bill, so you weren't getting around
Right,
that.
right, right. So, but yeah, I feel like this is a great example of what a remake could be, you know? And I'll go out on a limb and saying that depending on which Fright Night I had seen first, I might say that I would like this one more than the original. I
Hmm.
think it's that close. It hits the same beats and there's a lot of differences in them, but it is a very similar story, but also brings a lot of new elements into it as well. And so I feel like they can be almost criticized differently, not that we have to criticize this version of Fright Night against the old version of Fright Night. You know? Like, I
Okay.
think it's like it's kind of pedantic to think about it like that. But I feel like this stands on its own for being its own movie, even though it has the same subject material from the original. So
Yeah, so Roger Ebert had kind of a snarky review there.
of course.
I mean, it was and it wasn't. It's like, I say this despite my dread certainty that it will be followed by Fright Nights 2, 3, 4, and 5, in which a series of increasingly suspicious neighbors will be introduced in increasingly exotic locations. My own needs are modest. 2 movies based on this premise in 26 years is sufficient. He liked the movie, but he just had to, like, get that
sucker punch in there.
I don't. That would have been a really shallow series, and I know there was like a direct-to-video follow-up to this where it was like Fright Night, Bloodshot, or whatever the shit it was.
New Blood.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I didn't
Blood
watch
pun.
it. I don't have an interest in watching it, but I did watch the trailer because it was like immediately recommended after I watched Fright Night because it's on Amazon.
So was the setup the same thing?
No, but I kind of want to watch it. Not because I think it's going to be good, but I think it's a remake of the second Fright Night. Like, I think they remade the Fright Night sequel from the 80s as this Fright Night sequel
where Charlie goes to college.
Yeah. The only confusing part is like Ed is in it.
Is it the same actor though?
No.
Yeah, he was too popular to be in some direct-to-video.
Yeah. This is garage sale actors. Like, they got them from the neighbor down the street. Like, just in the trailer, you're like, oh my God, okay, these guys don't know anything, do they?
I'm gonna have to look up that trailer.
Yeah, do it. Because you'll be like, this is oddly familiar if you're even remotely have some knowledge of the second one, which is hard to find because you can only import it, and I don't think you could rent it anywhere. But it feels very similar. So I'm curious. That's why I want to watch it, to see if it's actually a remake of, which is kind of genius, although dumb at the same time,
So is this also supposed to be a continuation of Charlie's story? Because that's
perplexing to me.
That would be really difficult to reconcile because they killed Ed in the first movie. And if you're going to do a little bit of revisionist history, I guess that's fine. But to just have the two of them in the next movie and just act like we didn't see
you see him die and turn to ash, like we saw his eyeball pop, So yeah, he's dead. He's the undead is dead, really dead, deader than dead this time.
He was re-deadened, if you will.
He was re-deadened.
So I watched this in 3D.
Yeah.
So I'm
so glad we're talking about this.
That's 2 movies back to back. Oh, good. You have interesting 3D facts?
No, I don't have interesting 3D facts, but one of the things I wanted to comment on is this feels like it's an homage to how 3D was done in the 80s. Because it's literally shit flying towards the screen every chance that they can get.
You know what, I
didn't watch it in 3D.
Not every chance that they can get. I mean, there was like the vampire stakings played very well, and the gore and that stuff played well in 3D. But the thing that was actually really fascinating was I thought it was going to be kind of a boring 3D movie because it takes place in Las Vegas, which if you've ever been to Las Vegas, Nevada, or Paradise, Nevada, and driven around, here's the building that you're in, and then there's everything else way out in the background. What I thought was actually really cool was how well that the out of focus areas played in 3D.
Oh, okay.
Because I would not have thought at all that this was going to translate. Just because, like with Friday the 13th Part 3, they kind of steal a lot of the layering from Halloween. We're like, here's a tree up here, but then I'm in the background, so you can kind of appreciate the layering. Or Jason, I mean, this they stole right from Halloween, where he's like walking amongst the sheets hanging out in the yard, so you can see the sheets blowing. That looked really cool in 3D. So that's the kind of stuff where it's like, well, I don't see the layering here. So when you say kind of like throwback stuff, um, yes and no. I've never actually seen this particular use of the depth effect done this way out of the
Okay.
limited 3D movies that I've seen. So for a movie where it's like, here's the freaking desert, it actually, like, the stuff in the background actually popped out really, really interesting. Um, I will say that watching it in 2D is probably the way to go, because with this kind of like Real D glassesless three, or not glassesless, but not anaglyph, right? So it's not red and blue
Okay.
3D. It knocks a lot of the light off. So with a dark movie like this, where it's very shadowy, things can get kind of muddy looking because it knocks about 20% of the light off.
Okay. I would find that hard to watch then, because there's certain parts where I don't think that it's too dark like Alien versus Predator, but I feel like it's bordering that. And if you cut 20% less, I feel like that is Alien versus Predator territory, with not being able to see what the hell's going on. Especially
Well,
like when Ed gets into Jerry's house at the beginning before he gets turned into a vampire. That is some really dark area, you know?
I will say, even with the 3D glasses, this was a million times brighter than Alien vs Predator.
Okay.
Well,
It's still
specifically
amazing.
Alien vs Predator Requiem. That's the one that we're
Yes.
picking out, where
Yeah.
you need fucking night vision goggles to watch it. And
Yeah.
it was a choice too.
Yeah.
If
It's
you
amazing.
watch the trailer for that movie,
Mm-hmm.
you can see the trailer. Like, you can see the people, you can see the footage. And then you
Not that
watch
it
the actual
deserves it.
movie, and it's just silhouette. It's
Not that that movie deserves
this. I
it.
mean, this is
Yeah.
like generous. It's like, oh yeah, that's Alien vs Predator.
Yeah.
Even you're too bright for Alien vs Predator Requiem.
Right. No, it's surprising. Not that AVP Requiem deserves it, but maybe it could be restored. I'd like to see that version to its trailer version.
I'll take a release of Batgirl, but we've already thumped our
Yeah. Yeah.
thumped our pulpit on that one for for a couple episodes now.
Yeah. So I really liked David Tennant as Peter Vincent in this one. That was also, I think, like, if this wasn't portrayed very well, that this would be the straw that broke the camel's back, as far as like it being a that people would write this movie off for being another shitty remake. Like, if this character just was not good, then yeah. And David Tennant, I think, was perfectly cast for this role, and then like how he portrayed it as just being this. Do you remember Chris Angel, Mind Freak?
Yes,
the,
yeah,
the magician in Las Vegas that was like,
right,
here's all my illusions.
yeah.
I'm so good at these illusions. And it was just like camera tricks and bullshit. That's what this version of Peter Vincent reminded me of, was Chris Angel.
Yeah. No, I think it's supposed to, and I wasn't totally on board initially with that, with the just the, because I like the horror host, but they kind of had to do something to modernize it.
Right.
So I don't know, the idea of a vampire stage show, like, how successful would that be as a year-round touring thing to have residency in Las Vegas? That's a little bit questionable, but
Is it though? I mean, we have a real life version of that, just with magic,
yeah, well, yeah, but Chris Angel wasn't fighting vampires as part of his stage act, is what I'm saying. Now, you're absolutely right that David Tennant was fantastic in this, and I'm actually glad too that I've kind of become a fan of him, because I didn't know that he was in this. Like, I knew that Anton Yelchin was in it, and at the time, as we had talked about, I was still kind of like, Colin Farrell, but enough times passed, right? I think I can
Right.
be objective about it. And then it was like, wow, David Tennant's in this, cool.
Right.
So
I didn't
yeah, it had a great cast.
I didn't realize it was David Tennant until he started taking off his facial hair.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But at the time that I had seen this, I had never seen an episode of Doctor Who ever. So I didn't know he was even a part of something other, So
Hmm.
it was not even the first time that I was like, "Oh, that's David Tennant." I didn't know who David Tennant was, and then, like, fast forward to now where it's like, "Oh, yeah, I've seen plenty of episodes of Doctor Who," So it hits a little bit better that it's him playing this role, because before it's like, I don't know, it just seems like a guy playing a role, not how big of a person David Tennant is from Doctor Who, you
Well,
know?
yeah, I wasn't huge into Doctor Who or anything. I I think I made it through those first two seasons, and then like shortly after Tennant's run there, it's like, yeah, this isn't for me. But that's just me.
Yeah.
But then I saw him pop up in Jessica Jones as the Purple
Yes.
Man, and I was I was watching the reboot of DuckTales, and he plays Scrooge McDuck. It's like,
Really?
well,
Okay.
that's cool. Like, so I don't know. I even though I'm not that big of a fan of Doctor Who, I do find myself kind of delighted whenever he pops up, and I think that's a testament to not his persona like as an actor, but like the charisma that he brings to the
Right.
different roles.
Right. I agree. I want to touch on Chris Angel for just like a couple minutes longer because I found this. I wanted to search like the worst of Chris Angel, right? Not because I'm trying to be a rude,
Uh huh.
you know, but I wanted to see if it was like similar to Peter Vincent and like some of the stuff that happened in this movie, And I came across this video that was a local news organization just completely debunking Chris Angel's. He had this like illusion of him escaping a building in like less than 2 minutes or 2 minutes and 30 seconds before it imploded, right? Like, and they just debunked it in such like a savage and thorough way. I'm like, why does this local news station have a bone to pick with Chris Angel this
Mm-hmm.
much? Because
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't like, oh, CNN is uncovering and debunking Chris Angel. It's like Fox 13 out of God knows where is like,
Probably
you,
Los
sir, we have a
Angeles
bone
or
to pick with you right now, and we're
Nevada
just gonna
somewhere.
defame you. I guess it's not defaming. Yeah, because it's true. It's pretty funny. It's like 2 or 3 minutes long, and it was just and see what they did here. And he wasn't even running out of the same building when it collapsed, and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I mean, like we didn't really need that to know that it wasn't true. I mean, he tried to levitate over the Grand Canyon for crying out loud. Like it's just impossible.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a magician. He's an illusionist.
Well, I was gonna say
Difference.
they're called illusions for.
Yeah, for a reason.
Uh huh.
Yeah. Maybe it's illegal to be called a magician now because we all know it's fake. They're like, we're just giving you an illusion. Okay. Okay. Anyways, that's Chris Angel for you. So no, I didn't find any more correlation. So that went nowhere. But I just thought that this 2 minute news segment from Fox 13 was just pretty funny.
Okay.
It'll be down there. It'll be down there.
All right.
So,
Well,
what'd
I
you think of?
came
Oh, go
across
ahead.
interesting fact that because the movie was produced by DreamWorks, which is Steven Spielberg's company.
Mm-hmm.
He took a personal interest in this remake,
Really?
and he had suggestions with the editing. He had story suggestions. Marty Noxon, who was writer, one of the head writers during the golden era of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, what a great pick to bring her over to write some cool, hip youth vampire movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna remake Fright Night, I mean, you want one of the people from Buffy coming over, so that was great. But yeah, no, she was saying that he had story suggestions and kind of ideas on how to edit things, and apparently one of the things he likes to do is because he's such a juggernaut filmmaker making these
Right.
gigantic movies is that when they have little $15 million movies, it reminds him of being a kid and making movies because it's like playing in a smaller sandbox. So like he takes an interest in the smaller projects. I mean, not all the time, but in this case, he did, and
Right.
I just thought that was really cool and fascinating.
Did he add did he add any financial value to this movie? Because 15 million is not a lot. That's to make a movie like this. I
Yeah,
think
it
that's
could have been more than
what.
that. I don't have that
Yeah.
exact number off the top of my head.
Okay.
I was just kind of. I'm sure
Well,
this costs
right.
more
No.
than $15 million, especially if you're going to film in Las Vegas, but
Right.
and burn
Right.
entire buildings down.
Yeah. That's so great. Okay. One thing I want to talk about is sometimes movies can take forever to set up, and I feel like this movie gets going quickly. Like it skipped over a lot of the setup of the first one.
That was one of his story suggestions. Is once we know there's a vampire, just
like get it going.
It's just you have a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was revealed within like a couple minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, in the opening sequence, you're like, "Oh, that's a vampire,"
Mm-hmm.
And then we realize, I guess, who the vampire is within a few minutes of the movie, and then it's just like craziness after that. I do really like that they didn't waste, 40 minutes of the movie when it's only like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Setting up, oh, there's a vampire. It's like we know it's called Fright Night. We expect vampires. There's stakes in the logo,
Mm-hmm.
So.
But it's blood that explodes. So.
Right.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I'm glad they did. I thought like the action was tense and like the car scene, like leaving the house after the inferno that Jerry puts the house into, from lighting the gas main. Right. I like that car chase or that chase sequence.
Chasing after him with the bike and throwing it through the back window there.
That was awesome. It was scary because at first you're not thinking a bike is going to be thrown, and I thought it was like a monster at first, like a minion of the vampire flew after them, and then I was like, oh my god, it's the bike. Threw the bike through the window. That's awesome. And then
I will say that looked cool in 3D with like the chips of glass flying out of there.
I wish I could see 3D the way that it's meant to see. I see bits and pieces of it, and it's a miserable experience. Because when I don't see the 3D, I see everything double. I see the double image, so I see blurriness or 3D, and it's just like, I don't know what I'm looking at,
So we're going to see Avatar day one is what I'm hearing.
I am not seeing Avatar.
I don't even want to talk about that.
I want the special edition of Abyss on 4K. I could give a shit about more Avatar movies. Like he doesn't have to do anything for the rest of his life. Talking about James Cameron, except release the special edition of Abyss. That's all that I want.
Well, it's coming. Don't worry.
I hope so. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, and then Chris Sarandon in there getting eaten by Jerry was pretty awesome to see, So that's Chris Sarandon.
Oh, right? He had a cameo in there? That's cool.
What?
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
What? So when then that car sequence, like the guy who hits them, and it was like, why are you just in the middle of the road you got a tail light out? And then, Jerry comes from under the van that, they're in. And the guy that gets out of the car that Jerry eats, that's the old Jerry.
Yeah.
That's Chris Sarandon.
Yeah, that's cool.
What?
He's older. I didn't recognize him instantly. It's been like 40 years. Give me a break. It's a long time. I'm glad you picked that out. I'll have to look at that the next time.
He's in the credits. Don't you watch the credits?
Yeah, I do. Speaking of the old Jerry, though, one thing that I thought was cool that they brought back was the apple eating.
Yeah.
And it wasn't excessive. It's just like he's sitting there eating a Granny Smith there. And now we touched on that in our Fright Night audio episode of the original one there, that the reason for that was
I don't remember.
Oh, don't you? It was the idea that like he was a fruit bat, or there was some
Fruit
part of
bat.
fruit bat
Yeah.
inside of him.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, I'm glad that that was in there. The only thing I think was missing from this is that goon that Jerry had, his
The
friend.
sidekick, yeah.
Yeah, that was like in that other episode we couldn't figure out what he was. He wasn't a
Hmm.
vampire. It was like a ghoul or something. The way he just disintegrated on those stairs there. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
I wish there was that, but at the same time, it's almost I only realized that when I was comparing them in my head. You know, so I guess
That
it doesn't really matter. You know
that
that
character wasn't there.
right? Yeah.
Got to say, I didn't miss him.
Okay.
I
It
mean,
was
that's
just an
not a
extra
slight
creepy
against the
factor.
guy, but I feel like we had enough going on with the characters that they did have in play,
Hmm.
and I just felt like I didn't miss him.
No, neither did I. So it was fine, I guess. Yeah, it was just an observation. Um, but
Did
yeah, what?
oh, I was going to say that speaking of the original and things that kind of maybe they work or maybe not so great. I always thought it was a little strange in the original how they just kind of happen into that nightclub
Yeah,
where
they're
you
just
kind of
kind of there.
yeah,
Yeah,
and there's just this party raging, and I thought that one of the really smart things about the remake and setting it in Las Vegas was it actually justified just having a nightclub that you could just happen into like that.
right.
That whole scene felt so much more organic here than it did in the original because that's one of the few things, and I don't know why. It's just a small nitpick. Always kind of makes me disconnect with the movie just a little bit. Where it's like,
When when you don't know how certain characters get to certain places.
yeah, it's just that okay, we're here now. I mean, I always felt that you have this kind of like tense chase at nighttime, and then it's like we're just in a party scene, and I don't know. It's just
Well, and it makes
it.
sense that there would be a club at the bottom of this hotel. You know,
We're in Vegas,
there would
baby.
be. Yeah, yeah. No, I thought it was also perfect to move it to like Sin City. You
Hmm.
know, where like it's such a cool idea because most of everything happens at night in Las Vegas, you know? So that I guess if I did have a criticism, it would be that there wasn't enough vampire doing vampire stuff at night when there's going to be so many people around, you know? So, but they did stay out of the city for the most part. You know, it
Right.
was the penthouse, the club, or the neighborhood, you know, and that was basically it of this area, you know,
See, I
which
feel
is,
like they deliver on the vampire doing vampire stuff when they go into the lair.
yeah, but that wasn't in Sin City though.
Yeah, it wasn't, but
No, I'm saying like maybe there'd people be at slot machines and they just get taken down by Jerry, you know, or whatever. So, but it never gets to that like apocalyptic. We're gonna turn every living thing into vampires like Blade, you know.
yeah, and
Which
I don't think that's a route for survival for this kind of vampire. Because like
right,
he even has a line about like, oh, you think this is just going to take me out, and you're dealing with I don't know 400 years of survival. I'm paraphrasing, but you know,
right,
one of the things I liked about his character was that there wasn't really any humanity to appeal to.
yes,
Was
yeah,
he was not a romantic soul. He just kind of knew how to play things and just play off as being handsome to kind of lure people just into just enough trouble to take him into his creepy serial killer house.
yeah, yeah. So all those doors, that hallway behind his closet,
Hmm.
yeah, serial killer. I wouldn't go right to vampire if I saw that. Be like serial killer, you know,
Yeah,
kidnapper. But
creepy either way,
um,
but makes perfect sense.
so I'm glad we got this remake. I really am. That I don't know. It's just we are oversaturated during the time. We still are to a certain extent of just having remakes. Or I mean, now the trend is to call them reboots or soft reboots. You know, when it's like, nah, it's not really a reboot. You remade the whole thing. You know, it's not
I
a
feel like
continuation.
Yeah, with like Halloween or like 2018 or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I feel like Stallone's kind of started that trend with Rambo, because at the time remakes were popular, and I feel like he was the first one to be like, here's the title of the first damn movie in the series, but it's part 4.
Yes.
Ahead of his time.
Now it's everything. Yeah, it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Scream 5 is Scream. So is the new Scream going to be called Scream 2? You know? It could be.
That's the thing, is like they could have hidden the 5 in the logo because it's just in the S
and
somewhere.
But
where are you going to hide a 6?
Suddenly you're talking about it. You're talking with graphic designer language in you. Yeah, they could have done any number of things to hide a 5 in just about anything, or just put 5 on the screen with the ghost face in the 5. You don't even have to call it Scream. Just 5.
Yeah.
You know,
screams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing, it seems like we're wrapping up, but we're getting there, or at least we are. You were talking about 4Ks burning a hole in your pocket. What's going on here?
Okay. All right. So the month of October is going to be friggin' ridiculous, because within the span of like 3 weeks, all of these things that I've been waiting, because like I have the DVDs, and it's like I was going to get the Blu-rays, but like I'm not buying that until it comes out on 4K. Like it's around the corner. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's everything.
One after another. Army of Darkness, Poltergeist, American Movie. It's like, and
Return of the Living Dead.
Just yesterday, announcement: Return of the Living Dead. Shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's also the rest of the Halloween movies are coming out on 4K. I mean, there's only one that I really want.
But Halloween 6, the producer's cut.
Yeah. That's missing from my collection. It's so bad. But I have other ones that are not good either. I have other movies that aren't good either. That's my justification, you know. But yeah, it's like Halloween 6, 7, and 8 are coming out in 4K. H2O is kind of okay. I know a lot of people like it, but I'm on the fence about it. There's too many Michael Myers masks in it, and then Michael Myers doesn't even show up until halfway through the movie. You know, so it's a lot to get through when we know it's a Halloween movie. It's a lot to get through when we know what we should be seeing. You know,
the first 10 minutes I really like, but I'm kind of not in sympathy with the rest of the movie. It doesn't sustain very well. It's pretty much just over as soon as he gets to the school. But
yeah,
hey, if they came out with this movie in 4K, I would buy that.
This one?
I think,
in a heartbeat.
Didn't they announce the original was coming out?
Yes, the original is getting a 4K release as well.
That's one of the ones coming out this fall, right? Where it's just
yes. Like, it's so many, and it's like I have spent a lot on pre-orders this week alone, because it's like, okay, because the Return of the Living Dead one that I have is a shitty version. I want to upgrade, so I'm definitely going to get that one. I'm definitely going to get Halloween 6. Probably Poltergeist 2, because that's just, I love that movie, you know? So, God. So much money going out.
Yeah, I'm going to be having Halloween until Christmas, because I won't be able to afford them right when they come out, because I've got like 3 of the 5 pre-orders in that I want, but I'll try and space the other ones out. But
yeah,
those are all coming home.
I'll say this too. This has to do with an older 4K, but I bought 2001: A Space Odyssey on 4K. Oh my God, like top 3 best looking 4Ks I've ever bought. It is just eye candy. The movie's not for everybody, but it is mesmerizing how good it looks.
Yeah, it looks good.
It's so crazy. It's so good. So that alone is worth the price of admission. So, and I snagged it for $15 on Amazon. So how about that? It's pretty inexpensive for that level of movie.
Not bad.
Oh man. Yeah. A lot of horror movies, a lot of money being spent up until Halloween, but I'm happy to have them in my collection, you know?
Yeah. I would rebuy this if they came out with it in some prestige format, but I feel like that's not going to happen, sadly.
Probably not.
It deserves it though. It's pretty good. I think I definitely agree. It's one of the better remakes to come out of that era, and
It
I wish I hadn't slept on it for so long.
I do too. I wish I was a supporter of it and not a Colin Farrell hater, and went to see it for its merits, not because I have some sort of made up disagreement with some performance that some actor did in a movie that I'm never going to watch again. There you go.
Mhm. But no, we're here to talk about Pacific Rim, giant robots punching giant monsters. This movie's filled with things your inner child should absolutely love, and
Yes, I agree. And I'm glad you're saying that because unlike myself, this is the first time you've seen this movie.
yeah, you've been after me to watch this for a while.